I'm Dr. Natalie Langford. I'm an assistant professor in international political economy at the School of Government and International Affairs. And today I'm going to be talking to you briefly about some of the key modules that are offered within our department. I'm also going to talk about studying politics and international relations, what that really means, introduce briefly the School of Government and International Affairs, and finally look at some of the key modules offered at level 1. For today's presentation, perhaps I won't go into so much detail about modes of assessment and key contacts, but this is just really give you a sense of studying at SCIA. So what is the study of politics and international relations? Well, we can see from some of these images here that the study of politics and international relations encompasses a huge range of topics and areas of research, from Cold War politics through to conflict within poorer nations, through to migration challenges, through to global food security, and through to diplomacy really, and global cooperation. And politics and international relations are somewhat different subjects in some ways, but they often have a lot of linkages between them. So it's important to kind of think about modules as often being separated within these two kind of sub-disciplines of one another, so to speak. So politics is really kind of the study of power. It can often be the study that, individuals, of power that individuals exert over one another. So in politics, we're asking about questions of power. We're asking, what really is power? How can we conceptualize and define power? Who should really have power, and under what particular conditions? So a lot of politics can look at, either studies of voting patterns, electoral issues, through to actual political philosophy, ideas of how, in fact, power should be distributed, systems of governance, and, from democracy through to authoritarianism, through to anarchism. So there's many kind of important and interesting questions, and some researchers would approach this through a very quantitative approach, looking at relationships between different indicators. So how do women in Vietnam tend to be influenced by particular electoral campaigns, by particular organisations, and with what outcomes, for example, through to what is the nature of human behaviour? Can we be trusted to operate within an anarchic system without government, or do we need actors and institutions which really hold us together and kind of hold a binding force upon us? So those are some of the kind of interesting kind of simplified questions that we would maybe explore within politics modules. I'll just move on to talk about international relations briefly as well. International relations is more of a specific focus on relationships between nation states within the world, right? And how these relationships have changed through time. Power is also really important in the study of international relations. So how do states understand each other's behaviour? How do they seek to exert power upon each other? And is there an opportunity to foster much greater cooperation at the global level, or in fact is every nation state guided by their own particular forms of self-interest, which undeniably would lead to conflict? So international relations often draws on theoretical discussions between different sort of approaches. So you may already have heard of ideas of realism versus liberalism, and more recently constructivism. But we can also think about decolonial approaches to global politics, and actually trying to understand relationships between states through the prism of histories of subordination and oppression as well. So that's also kind of an important theoretical lens there. In addition, we also tend to focus on international political economy, which can be seen sometimes as a subset of international relations, but this is more concerned with considering global capitalism, really. It's focused on the relationship between nation states and markets, and particularly in the late 20th century and early 21st century, we've seen the incredible rise in power of private actors such as corporations. So really interested in understanding how corporations and other private bodies are capable of shaping global politics and economics. So here we might be concerned with the impact of global supply chains on producer countries. How have corporations within the global north, within industrialized countries, come to shape the working conditions of those of us in the south, in garment factories, for example, in Bangladesh? What is the relationship between that, and what is the relationship between corporations and states when it comes to governing workers, for example? So those are just some of the kind of key questions which come about within international relations as well. We have several specialist research groups in SCIA. This means that researchers within the department tend to cluster within these 4 particular areas. So some of the modules will certainly reflect the expertise offered within the areas of political theory, international relations and security, comparative politics, and political economy as well. And finally, just to touch upon some of the specific modules that you might encounter if you choose to come and study with us at Durham at SCIA: researching politics and international relations. So really kind of talking about the methods that we might use to answer some of these questions. Introduction to comparative politics, introduction to international relations, political theory, democratic political systems, international security, interdependence and organisation, and finally global regions in international relations. So I will leave it there, but I hope that's been informative about some of the content that you would study in SCIA, and also just an overview of what is politics and international relations. So thank you very much for your attention.